The look on my brother Michael's face was absolutely priceless. One minute he was confidently striding into the interview room, resume in hand, ready to charm his way into a VP position. The next, he was standing there frozen, mouth agape, staring at me behind the CEO's desk like he'd seen a ghost. "Please have a seat," I said professionally, gesturing to the chair across from me. "We have a lot to discuss." 2 weeks earlier, he'd been throwing my belongings onto our parents' front lawn, screaming that I was a worthless leech who needed to get out of his house. Now here he was, realizing that his career quite literally rested in my hands. Funny how life works out sometimes. I'm Alexandra Carter Alex to my friends, though my brother always insisted on calling me Alexandra because he knew I hated the formality. 35, I'm the younger of 2 siblings by 3 years. Our parents, David and Marie Carter, built a successful manufacturing business from the ground up. Carter Industries started in our garage when I was just a baby, and by the time I was in high school, it had grown into a respectable mid-sized company. Everyone always assumed Michael would take over the family business. He was the firstborn son, the one who got his MBA, the one who dressed in suits from the time he was old enough to tie his own tie. I was just the quiet daughter who spent too much time with computers and weird ideas about modernizing our production processes. "Alexandra, honey," my mother would say, sighing dramatically whenever I tried to explain my suggestions for updating our systems, "leave the business decisions to your brother. He understands these things." What they never understood was that while Michael was learning about traditional business models and old-school networking, I was studying the future. Artificial intelligence, machine learning, advanced automation, I saw where manufacturing was heading, and I knew our family company needed to adapt or die. But try explaining artificial intelligence to people who still used paper ledgers and relied on handshake deals. My father would pat my head like I was still 12 years old, saying, "That's nice, sweetheart. Why don't you go help your mother with the accounting?" So I did what any underestimated daughter would do. I built something of my own. Quietly, methodically, while everyone thought I was just the family disappointment working a computer job in Seattle. That computer job was actually my own company, Next Gen Manufacturing Solutions. We specialized in AI-driven automation systems for industrial applications. In 7 years, we'd grown from a startup in my apartment to an industry leader with over 500 employees and clients worldwide. Not that my family knew any of this. On their radar, I was still little Alexandra who couldn't hack it in the family business, who ran away to the West Coast to find herself. Even when my company started making headlines in industry publications, they never made the connection. Thrall A.J. Carter, the reclusive CEO of NextGen, couldn't possibly be their Alexandra. Things might have continued that way indefinitely if Dad hadn't had his heart attack. It wasn't a major one, thankfully, but it was enough of a wake-up call for him to start thinking about succession planning. I flew home as soon as I heard the news, arriving at the hospital just hours after they admitted him. "He's going to be fine," Michael informed me curtly in the waiting room, barely looking up from his phone. "You didn't need to come." But I did need to come because I knew what was coming next. Sure enough, a week later, Dad called a family meeting to discuss the future of Carter Industries. "I've decided it's time to step back," he announced from his favorite armchair in the living room, Mom hovering anxiously nearby. "Michael will take over as CEO, effective immediately." Michael preened, straightening his tie. "I won't let you down, Dad. And I'll still live here," Dad continued, "to help with the transition. But I think it's best if I'm not involved in day-to-day operations anymore." That's when Michael turned to me, his expression smug. "Which means, Alexandra, that as CEO, I'll be making some changes. Starting with this house." I raised an eyebrow. "What about the house?" "Well, you can't stay here anymore. It's not appropriate for the CEO's adult sister to be living at home. What would people think?" "I don't live here," I pointed out. "I'm just visiting because Dad was in the hospital." "And now he's fine," Michael snapped. "So you can go back to whatever it is you do in Seattle. Actually, you should leave tomorrow. I'm having some business associates over for dinner, and it would be awkward having you here." Her parents sat silently, watching this exchange. They'd always let Michael have his way, especially when it came to business matters. Why should now be any different? Fine, I said, standing up. I'll go pack. But as I climbed the stairs to my old bedroom, my phone buzzed with a notification that would change everything. Our latest algorithm had just flagged Carter Industries as a potential acquisition target. Company's financials, which I'd been monitoring for years, showed exactly what I'd feared. They were falling dangerously behind the technological curve. In my childhood bedroom, surrounded by old science fair trophies and computer programming books, I made a decision. It was time for the family to learn exactly what their disappointing daughter had been up to. I was awakened early the next morning by banging on my door. Alexandra. Michael's voice was sharp. I told you I'm having people over tonight. You need to leave. Now. I opened the door to find him already in a suit, his face red with anger. I have a flight this afternoon, I said calmly. I'll be gone before your dinner. No. Now. I mean it, Alexandra. This is my house now and I want you out. What happened next was both surreal and strangely satisfying. Michael, my Harvard MBA brother who prided himself on his professional demeanor, completely lost it. He started grabbing my belongings, clothes, laptop bag, toiletries, and throwing them into the hallway. Get out. Dad left me in charge. He was actually yelling, spittle flying from his mouth. I'm the CEO now, and I say you're not welcome here. I stood calmly in the middle of this tornado of flying clothing and personal items, watching my brother unravel. Mom appeared in the doorway, wringing her hands but saying nothing. Dad was presumably still asleep. His medication made him drowsy in the mornings. Michael, stop, I said finally as he grabbed my laptop bag. You don't want to do that. Oh, I really do, he sneered and threw the bag down the stairs. The sound of my expensive laptop crashing to the bottom made Mom wince. I took a deep breath. That laptop contains proprietary information worth millions of dollars. If anything happens to it, he laughed. Your little computer games aren't worth anything. God, Alexandra, when are you going to grow up and live in the real world? I pulled out my phone and made a call. John? Code red. Initiate remote wipe and data transfer for laptop 3. Yes, full protocol. I hung up and looked at my brother. There. Crisis averted. Now, would you like to continue this tantrum or should we discuss this like adults? Get out of my house. Each word was punctuated with a pointing finger toward the door. So I left. Calmly collected my scattered belongings, retrieved my laptop, thankfully in a well-padded bag, and walked out to my rental car. As I pulled away, I saw Michael in the rearview mirror, standing on the front steps looking triumphant. What he didn't know was that at that exact moment, my team in Seattle was initiating phase 1 of what we called Project Homecoming. I'd been preparing for something like this for years, quietly buying up shares in Carter Industries through various shell companies, analyzing their weaknesses, and developing a modernization strategy. Now, thanks to Michael's tantrum, the timeline was accelerating. Over the next 2 weeks, while Michael was busy playing CEO, reorganizing offices, ordering new business cards, planning expensive dinners with potential clients, my team was busy too. Our share purchases increased, our analysts compiled detailed reports on Carter Industries' technological deficiencies, and our lawyers prepared the necessary paperwork. Meanwhile, Carter Industries was hemorrhaging clients. Turned out that Michael's traditional approach, which basically meant doing everything exactly as it had been done 30 years ago, wasn't playing well with modern manufacturers who wanted smart factories and integrated systems. When one of their biggest clients, Thompson Manufacturing, announced they were looking for a new supplier with more advanced capabilities, Michael panicked. He started reaching out to every consulting firm and manufacturing expert he could find, desperate for someone to help modernize the company. That's how he ended up scheduling an interview with Next Gen Manufacturing Solutions. The morning of the interview, I arrived early at our Boston offices. As CEO, I rarely took meetings with potential clients anymore, but I'd made an exception for this one. My assistant did a double take when she saw me. I usually ran the company from our Seattle headquarters. "Mr. Carter is scheduled for 10 a.m., she informed me, trying to hide her surprise at my presence. "Perfect," I replied, settling behind the desk in our main conference room. "Could you bring in some coffee, please? And make sure all the blinds are open. I want plenty of natural light." At exactly 10 a.m., Michael strode in exactly as I'd predicted, confident, borderline arrogant, ready to charm whoever he was meeting with. He got 3 steps into the room before he saw me. The look on his face was absolutely priceless. "Please have a seat," I repeated, enjoying every second of his shock. "As I said, we have a lot to discuss." He sank into the chair, still staring. "Alexandra? What, how?" "That's Ms. Carter, actually. Or AJ, if you prefer. That's what most people in the industry call me." I slid a folder across the desk to him. "I believe you're here to discuss modernizing Carter Industries' manufacturing processes." He opened the folder with trembling hands, then closed it again. "This is impossible. You can't, you're not the CEO of Next Gen Manufacturing Solutions?" "Actually, I am. Founded it 7 years ago. We're now the leading provider of AI-driven automation solutions in North America." I leaned back in my chair. "But you'd know that if you'd ever bothered to read any industry publications, or listen when I tried to tell you about technological innovation." "Does Dad know about NextGen?" "No. He still thinks I play with computers in Seattle." I smiled. "He also doesn't know that as of this morning, NextGen owns 51% of Carter Industries shares." Michael's face went from red to white. "That's not possible." "The shares were purchased gradually through various shell companies over the past 5 years. Completely legal, I assure you. The paperwork is being filed with the SEC as we speak." He stood up so quickly his chair toppled backward. "You can't do this. Dad left the company to me." "Dad left you his shares, which amounted to 30% of the company. The rest was publicly traded." Kept my voice calm, professional. "You should have paid more attention in those board meetings instead of playing with your phone." "I'll fight this," he threatened. "I'll get lawyers." "By all means," I gestured to the folder he dropped. "Have your lawyers look over everything. They'll tell you the same thing. This is a legal acquisition of a publicly traded company. The board has already been notified, and given Carter Industries' recent performance under your leadership, they're quite enthusiastic about the change." He slumped back into the chair he'd just knocked over. "Why? Why would you do this?" "Because Carter Industries needs to survive. Dad's life work deserves better than to become obsolete because his son was too arrogant to adapt." I stood up. "You have 2 choices, Michael. You can fight this, waste time and money on lawyers, and ultimately lose. Or you can accept a position as Vice President of Client Relations. You're good at the schmoozing part, I'll give you that, and help me bring this company into the 21st century." "Vice President?" He spat the words. "Under my little sister?" "Under the CEO of North America's leading manufacturing technology company," I corrected. "Take some time to think about it. You have until the end of the week to decide." As he stumbled out of my office, I picked up my phone to call our parents. It was time for another family meeting, one where everyone would finally understand exactly what their disappointing daughter had achieved. Dad had another small health scare when I explained everything, but once he calmed down and looked at the numbers and, more importantly, saw the innovations we were bringing to his beloved company, he came around. Mom took longer, still struggling to reconcile her image of me with the successful CEO I'd become. Michael eventually accepted the VP position, though it took him nearly the full week to swallow his pride. He's actually good at it when he's not trying to prove he's the smartest person in the room. We're not close, probably never will be, but we've found a way to work together professionally. As for me, I split my time between Seattle and Boston now, overseeing both companies as we merge them into something stronger than either was alone. The family house has been converted into a showcase for our smart manufacturing technology. Michael moved out to a condo downtown, which suits everyone just fine. Sometimes, late at night in my old bedroom, now a state-of-the-art home office, I look at those old science fair trophies and smile. The quiet girl who played with computers built something bigger than anyone could have imagined. And my laptop? Survived the fall down the stairs just fine. High-end equipment is built to last, after all. Just like some people.